I don't need to field any questions. I got one for Jim Lang, our NFL insider. And you know where we're going, Jim. It's the biggest news in football of the year. It's Chapel Bill, they're calling it. Chapel Hill is now Chapel Bill. What do you think?
How about that?
So I heard the sound effect. I didn't hear your question, Rod. What was that?
I said, what do you think of Bill Belichick going to Chapel Hill?
I love it. I think it's a fantastic move for Bill Belichick. I think it's a great move for North Carolina, especially the Tar Heels football program, the ACC, college football in general. And there was a couple articles that were intimating that Bill has soured on the current ownership state in the NFL, including his most recent owner, Robert Kraft, and what they kind of expecting of coaches. So now he goes into a situation. And it's all he wanted to have control. Now, imagine Bill Belichick going to an NCAA football program who's never had that kind of star power before. They've never had the elite program, the elite coaches. Now they have the opportunity to be considered among the Alabamas and Michigans and those kind of schools, which is unprecedented for North Carolina Tar Heels football. And for the alumni, for the student body, for the state, for everyone involved, for merchandise sales. This is big. And I know you were talking to Tori about recruiting. Think about, I'm a parent. Bill Belichick comes to my living room to talk about my son potentially going there. Now, the son may or may not understand the greatness of Bill Belichick. He may. But the parent, especially the father, sure does. About Bill Belichick sitting in my living room, and he's recruiting to have my little Rod Pedersen go to Chapel Hill, North Carolina, and play linebacker for him. Son, I think you should go. And I'm excited to see his recruiting classes, how he builds the team, how he structures the discipline and the professional attitude that he's going to bring to college football, and the media attention. I don't think North Carolina football has ever experienced the kind of media attention they're about to have next football season.
Oh, my God. ESPN and Fox going to be broadcasting live. ACC Network probably every day. But, you know, I've asked Jim Barker today, Tori Gurley today, how recruiting's changed. You know what they brought up, Jim, was money.
Yes.
In both cases. Basically, Tori, you saw what Tori said. It was brown paper bags before. Now it's NIL. It's just legal now. As opposed, like, it seems like it still comes down to money. Do you believe that or not?
Well, I do. So all things being equal, if, say, all the schools have whatever millions of dollars to hand out, and you have a choice as a family, as an athlete, between coach A, B, C, and D and Bill Belichick might tip the scales in your favor now and then because of who he is. And I look at it like certain players go to certain junior hockey teams in Canada because it gives them the best opportunity to go to the pro level. If I'm going to North Carolina now, Bill Belichick, from what he and all his resume, and I'm thinking as an athlete, does he give me the best chance to learn what I need to know to succeed at the NFL level? A lot of people are going to think so, yes. Because the money, yeah, right. The transfer portal and the money, that is just a fact of reality now in the NCAA football. And it's not going back to the other way. So you need something to stand out among these other teams with this kind of money going around and all the transferring that's going around. And maybe, just maybe, I mean, you saw Deion Sanders in Colorado, Bill Belichick now in North Carolina, and now we're starting to look at maybe a potential future of how NCAA football programs structure themselves to try to keep players. It has to be more than just money.
Fascinating. To the field. Jeremy writes in, he's a Kansas City Chiefs fan. He says, do you have any concerns, Jim, with the Chiefs? They will have Hollywood back this week or next. Do you think they need a bye and a first seed for home field to get to the Super Bowl?
I do, and I'll share his concern because Patrick Mahomes and a number of players yesterday said they're a little worried. Sunday, they're in Cleveland to take on the Browns, and that's the start of 3 games in 10 days. They play Sunday. They play the Saturday before Christmas. They play Wednesday, Christmas Day. That is not a lot of time for turnaround. Not a lot of time to get body and mind healthy. And I think that Mahomes knows about the grind this late in the year, that there has to be concern. So this obviously this game against Cleveland Sunday is really, really important to the Chiefs because depending on what happens with the Lions-Bills game, they may not have to win other games to secure home field in the postseason. So that would give the Chiefs a chance to maybe rest some players because that's a lot of football in a 10-day span. Knowing that there's a lot of players in that team, Rod, who have a lot of mileage on their body, who have played all this extra football over the last number of years in all these Super Bowls and playoff games, and that starts to take a toll on the body. I don't care how fit you are and how good of an athlete, you can only push it so far. So for Andy Reid and the coaching staff, if they can win this weekend and the Lions beat the Bills, I think they're home and cooled out for home field advantage in the AFC, and maybe they can rest some people down the stretch because, I would be concerned, absolutely, because the Chiefs are winning. But at no time that I think they're going to blow everyone away. They're winning, but I think in the back of everyone's mind, they do still look beatable in the postseason.
So you think it realistically could be a Super Bowl preview on Sunday then? Bills at Lions.
Oh, absolutely. I absolutely do. What Dan Campbell and the Lions are doing, it's nothing short of phenomenal. And we saw Josh Allen last week, the first quarterback ever to throw 3 and run for 3 touchdowns same game, and they lose because of some questionable coaching decisions by Sean McDermott. But yeah, it could happen. Now, I mean, it would be the Rust Belt Super Bowl between the Bills and the Lions, but it would be good for football because, neither team has a Super Bowl title to their name. And I think for a lot of fans of both franchises, they've been long suffering. And whether or not the Bills can get through the AFC because the Steelers are better than I think anyone predicted. The Chiefs are still a very good team. So it's not going to be a cakewalk to get into the Super Bowl in the AFC. But the Lions, they are. I mean, every time you think, well, maybe they're going to stumble, maybe they're going to slow down, they can brawl, they can outscore you. They're strong along the offensive and defensive line. Jared Goff looks like a completely different quarterback in Detroit. I don't know what Dan Campbell and his coaching staff have done, but it's not just X's and O's, but his confidence, self-confidence has never looked better. It's such an amazing team to watch and see what they are building in Detroit.
Yeah, it goes so much further than stats and numbers, and I'll get to why in a second. Brent here in Wellington, Florida writes in, he says, let's not forget how much money is behind UNC. Basketball school for years now, all of a sudden could become both a basketball and football school.
Yep.
Better believe NIL money will show up now. Brent's a Packers fan, and we're going to get to his team in a second. But I had Gus Farad on here on Monday, and he said he loves Dan Campbell going for it. The 5 fourth-down gambles last week on Thursday Night Football. Most of the players do. Dan Campbell was here in Miami for a few years as an assistant and an interim coach for a while. And the Dolphins people saying they miss Dan Campbell. They miss him. There's something he brings, Jim, that's more than numbers.
And I agree. And certain coaches have an it factor, and Dan Campbell does. And they've made a lot on social media about replaying his post-game speeches. But every coach in every sport, I believe, Rod, it tries to get the buy-in. Do the players buy into me as a coach and what I'm trying to achieve as a team? And that, without question, the players in the Lions are buying into Dan Campbell, the coach, and the Lions' way of playing football. That is without question, because I really believe that's what Andy Reid has in Kansas City with the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes and Kelsey, and they've had players come and go, but it's this, like they say, the same old Chiefs. This is how Andy Reid does it. This is how the Chiefs do it, and look how successful they've been. And you're seeing a lot of that in Detroit with Dan Campbell, and the way they scout, the way they draft, everything about it. Now all of a sudden, the Lions are a destination football team, and I just want to bring this up because it relates. I know there was a lot of talk with Kevin Adams and the Sabres saying no one wants to play here. And I really cringed at that because once upon a time, no one wanted to play in Green Bay. And then you had Vince Lombardi. They won all these titles. Everyone wanted to play there. Then they had their downtime. And then Mike Holmgren showed up in Green Bay. And then they got Reggie White and they had Brett Favre. If you win, it doesn't matter where your team is. It doesn't matter where your city is. It doesn't matter if you have snow all day or palm trees. If you win, nobody cares. Players want to be part of a winning franchise. And right now, who wouldn't want to be part of the Lions? Because they consistently win week after week.
It ain't easy to do that. So whoever's responsible in Detroit, take a bow, right? Because it's very, very hard to do. And what Kevin Adams said, because it's been brought to my attention a couple times, that's what losing teams do, right? The Packers, I mentioned at the Seahawks, that is a playoff preview. That is a sneaky good game. It's not the game of the week, but it's a sneaky good game, Jim.
I think it's a very sneaky good game, and the Seahawks are better than people give them credit for. As people talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers lineage of coaches between Chuck Noll and Bill Cowher and Mike Tomlin. Think about Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers to Jordan Love. And they've got another really good quarterback in Jordan Love. And they're not just a one-dimensional football team. Now, the fact that it's in Seattle makes it tough for Green Bay. That is a very, very tough place to play on the road. They'll have to go to silent counts. What fans should look for is the guard tapping the center on the hip to tell them to snap the ball. It's highly doubtful they'll ever be able to hear a snap count from Jordan Love with the kind of noise in that stadium with the 12th man they have in Seattle. So because Seattle's at home, it's going to make it a great game and a tight game. So I'm really looking forward to it. I agree. I'm not know what Seattle has to do to prove themselves. A lot of people don't believe in them, but they're in line right now to win the division. And the Rams winning last night in a really ugly game puts them in shouting distance. So obviously Seattle needs this win to keep ahead of the Rams. I'm looking forward to a good game.
Where, Jim, are the articles on Belichick saying he doesn't care for the ownership now of the NFL? I want to read it. I mean, I believe it. I want to see it. Do you remember?
Seth Wickersham from ESPN. And
okay.
And I had watched the Pat McAfee episode, and he alluded to something that the stupid questions a coach gets from an owner on a Monday after a game. And at first I just laughed it off as Bill Belichick being kind of cheeky, but I think there was a subtle dig there that here's this coach with this incredible resume and all these championships and still being second guessed for decisions that are made the day before in the field, and he wasn't a big fan of it. And I think that's part of the reason he will not have to do that in North Carolina. I mean, the athletic director will only be able to talk to him so often. He's going to have unbelievable power, the kind of power I don't think you can get as a coach now in the NFL because of the way everything's structured. Maybe Andy Reid would be the top of the mountain for that, but Bill said, okay, you know what? I'm going to go somewhere where I can make all the decisions and lay the blueprint for how I want things, and that'll be the University of North Carolina.
You don't want to answer to an idiot. It's pretty simple. I don't think you and I want to either.
No, but I mean, think about Bill. He's 72. He's one of the winningest coaches in the history of sports. He's won as many champions. Like, there's not many coaches in any sport that have won many championships as he has. And if anyone has watched the Manning Cast, his NFL film show, Pat McAfee, he's as sharp now as he was 25 years ago. His knowledge of the game now, the way he can identify things and break down things, it's just, I don't see, I mean, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I'm not seeing any decline whatsoever in Bill Belichick's acumen and depth of knowledge when it comes to football. It's as good now as it ever was.
Right. Forget the age. I got to say this, though. Mike Richards talked about, this is so mean to say, but about Belichick's girlfriend yesterday. He brought it up on the show. He's like, I've heard of daddy issues, but grandpa issues? It's bad. Everyday hockey heroes. Can they get it, Jim, in time for Christmas? I'm sure they still can.
They can. They can get it at Amazon.ca. You don't have to worry about the postal strike because it'll be delivered right to your house or Chappers Indigo, wherever you want. And this is a great time of year because when you have a Dutch wife, you get a chocolate advent calendar. So I got my chocolate for today that I'm going to have later. So I get a chocolate a day. And looking forward to a nice holiday season.
Sounds great, man. All right, Jim, Merry Christmas. Thanks for jumping on. Always fun.
Ho, ho, ho. Merry Christmas, guys. Take care.
Jim Lang, Canada's foremost NFL expert. I think he just called us a hoe.